Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we convene our final session for the time being, and we'll take the month of August off, and we will reconvene on September 4th for our fall program of Humanity Rising. And I must say, having been at this every day, 5 days a week, I feel a little nostalgic already about the fact that I'll be missing all of you. And I'll be in touch. I'll be sending out various emails and communications during the break. But I just wanted to note this is our final day. And we want to close out this particular phase of Humanity Rising by emphasizing both women's empowerment and also how we can all relax into a highly conflicted reality by tuning ourselves back into nature. I've been making the point over the last several weeks that the astrology of our time is impacting human behavior and attitudes in a very profound, very observable way. We've talked about the conjunction of Mars and Uranus that coincided with the assassination attempt of Donald Trump and the Republican National Convention, where violence and aggressiveness is kind of coupled and amplified by an exuberance and an ecstatic, almost hysteria that we saw at the Republican National Convention. Trump was saved by God, so Trump can save America. Then within a week, Joe Biden withdrew, and Kamala Harris was empowered to become the Democratic nominee. And that Uranian energy coursed into Kamala Harris's campaign. And what I've been noting is that on the very day that Kamala Harris was designated by Joe Biden as the presidential nominee of the Democratic Party, 50,000 women were on a single call, mostly women of color, committing themselves to work 24/7 for the election of Kamala Harris. That's Uranus. That is the surging of world-changing energy. As you may know, we're now in another interesting alignment between Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn and Jupiter just came into a square, which means that rather than in a conjunction where you have the Earth, Mars, and Uranus in a straight line, you have the Earth, Saturn, and Jupiter squared. So again, you have the gravitas of Saturn and the exuberance of Jupiter, but now in a square. So what we can expect from that is increased contradictions and polarities, within the context of which we not only have to navigate, but we have to become creatively intertwined with. That's the challenge of people of goodwill and people of conscious orientation. So today, we want to start with Heather Ash Amara, who's a best-selling author of a number of books on women warriors, who's now just publishing her latest book on wild, willing, and wise, 3 archetypes for women. And I say this seriously. I think the fate of the United States, and therefore the fate of the world over the next 4 years, really rests from that group in the polity that are under assault in terms of their basic sovereignty over their bodies, and are now beginning to coalesce around a woman of color running against Donald Trump for the presidency of the United States. So Heather Ash's book could not be better timed, and I recommend it to all of you. And she's going to take about 10 or 15 minutes just to talk to us about her book, and then we will segue to the next important issue, and that is how all of us align more deeply and creatively with the natural order of things. So Heather Ash, welcome to Humanity Rising.
Thanks so much, Jim. Good to be here. Hey, everyone. So happy to get to be on this last Humanity Rising before the break happens. Yeah, and that I got to pop in because yesterday I was not able to make it. So the book Wild Willing Wise got birthed yesterday, so brand new baby book. And the timing of the book is so powerful because when I was working on it, I really wanted to create something that was really usable for these times. And that was a workbook to guide us through the challenges that we've been facing and that we are continuing to face. And I based it originally on for women of maiden, mother, and crone. And as I was working on it, I felt really strongly that we need archetypes at this time that are for everybody, that we're stripped of gender and of old beliefs. And that really helped us to gain traction around how to embody these three really vital energies that bring us back into harmony with ourselves and with the natural world. So wild, the energy of wild is our creativity and our passion and our yes and our willingness to make mistakes and to try again. It's that place of experimentation. Our willing energy is our sustainable, nurturing, generative energy. I will show up. I don't need to know what it's going to look like, but I will be here. I will show up. I will learn how to stay steady. That's the willing energy. And it's about birthing and then nurturing the things that we birth over time. And then the wise energy, which is about that deep compassion of being able to hold the complexities of these times without division, but to keep weaving ourselves back into a longer story and into really creative solutions that are outside of what any of us have thought about before. That's where that wise energy comes in. And for each of us, it's not that we do wild and then we do willing and then we do wise. They're all working together and they're part of an ecosystem of our own being as we weave ourselves back into harmony. And that each of these energies can get out of balance. So for example, we can have excess wildness, we can have a deficiency of wild, and we can have excess willing and a deficiency of willing, excess wise and a deficiency of wise. And I want to just share a little bit. I love that some of you are saying that you've gotten the book, that it just arrived. It's so exciting. That I want to especially talk about the energy of wild and willing today, that we need more wildness. And I think that's part of what Harris's campaign right now is like. There's this feeling sense of like, yes, energy is moving, and there's this kind of play, serious, like, let's do this. Like the feralness of, and I think especially right now, women is getting woken up. I know for me, there's been this sense of just exhaustion, I think for many of us around the politics of the United States. And suddenly this whole new energetic has opened up, and there's a wildness to it, which is much needed right now. Wildcat ladies unite. The willing energy is also something that Serena's laughing over here. And the willing part is also the willingness to stay in, even when we don't know what the next step is, even when it seems difficult or it is difficult, that we want to be sustainable. We have to be sustainable. But when we have excess willingness, we're trying to caretake everyone out. We often burn out. There's a level of overwhelm. And so to keep our willing steady, that we're working with each other and working with the natural world to be generative, to be nourishing, to keep nourishing ourselves and nourishing our communities and nourishing our larger environments is really, really critical at this time. And that also the wise is the coming into a deeper sense of our compassion and our sense of calm. Like, shit's gone down, shit will continue to go down. How do we find the calm? And that calmness is actually what gives us enough of a rudder, like a deep, deep rudder, to stay steady even through the biggest waves that we might be facing. So my prayer for all of us is that we bring in more of that feral wildness into our lives, that we open our hearts to be more willing to both sustain the vision we create for ourselves and the world, but also to take action towards it in a nourishing way. And that we also keep getting more and more quiet and still inside of ourselves so we can listen to that voice and that knowing of wisdom, that we can reconnect with silent knowledge, which is in the land, the trees, the mountains, the humans, and that is much larger than any of us individually. So here's the new magical book. I'm going to share where you can get more information about it, the website Wild, Willing, and Wise. And please reach out to me at any time. I know a lot of you have been on the Teo trip or on the Chartres, and just sending blessings to you for this summer. I'm going to be on tour. And so if you want to go check out Wild, Willing, and Wise of where you can come see me, I would so love to give each of you a huge hug and keep us all going during these wild times.
Heather Ash, thank you so much. I want to just underscore the point that you made, which I'd love to have you briefly elaborate on. And this exhaustion that we were all feeling around the election as Trump was rising into the ascendancy, Biden was clearly descending into incapacitation at one way or another. And then in very short order, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, right when Mars and Uranus came into conjunction, everything switched. And the wildness, that energy, the Uranian wildness, the world-changing upheat, the Promethean energy went right into Kamala Harris and the campaign. So I'd love to have you just talk a little bit about the transformation of exhaustion into wildness. What kind of happens? Because that's really important for us to take in.
It is, and that happens all the time. And I think that that's something that we have to remember as well, is that things shift drastically like that.
Yeah.
And that, because it's been so fascinating. Like psychically, I keep looking down the timeline and I'm like, damn it, Trump's getting elected. Like every time we look down the timeline, it would be the same thing. And then the moment it shifted, I'm like, the timeline just like everything is up for grabs now. It's so cool to feel that level of things being shaken up at a deep, deep. And so I think that's something for us to remember. And a part of the willing is that we can feel that level of exhaustion, or that like, I don't know how this is going to work. And if we're willing to stay in and stay open, that when things shift, then we're ready for it. That the metaphor of the river, throughout the book, I've used the metaphor of a river, and that there can be times when in a way we feel like we're paddling upstream. And I feel like that's what all of us have had this sense of. It's like we're just paddling upstream and nothing's really changing and it just feels hopeless. But it's almost like all of a sudden something happened where the boat's now facing back the correct direction. And there's all the force of the river behind us. And who knows what's going to happen, but it's different. And that's that sense of being so centered inside of ourselves and available for miracles and possibilities. Then I think that's what helps us to undo the overwhelm, is to always know it could shift in a second and I want to be here and ready for it. And that
exactly.
means we have to take good care of ourselves so we can shift.
Thank you so much. Blessings on you. And I hope we see you on the New York Times bestseller list.
Thank you, love. Thank you so
Wild,
much.
Willing, and Wise, everyone, by Heather Ashamara. Thank you so much, Heather Ash. Much love.
Thanks, everyone.
Now we want to broaden the conversation from these important matters that are affecting the actual future of the United States and in different permutations, the situations around the world, to how we empower ourselves, how we take care of ourselves during this highly conflicted, turbulent time. And for that, we want to turn to our beloved Dehanna Rice, who's been with us on many occasions for Humanity Rising and has really been developing ever since she came into the Humanity Rising community, programs and sessions on how we can use what we know to self-help. And so today we thought it would be fitting for Dehanna and her colleague to ease us into the August break by reminding us of the most fundamental truth of it all, that we are part of nature and our alignment with nature is the key to everything that we seek. Thank you so much, Dehanna. I turn it over to you.
My honor and blessing always to this community. I'm so honored always to come on and share my goods and just talking about that relaxation, how much we need it in our world today, and connecting to nature. And I have such a wonderful talk planned with my wonderful friend, Stefanie Atkinson Schwartz. But I wanted to start a little bit, first of all, introducing myself. If you don't know who I am, I do energy-based work and I have a company called Energy Meds Global. I work with a breath work called Coherent Breathing. It's called Breath, Body, Mind Workshops. We have been all over the world. I've been honored. My mentors wrote an award-winning book called The Healing Power of the Breath. And we've started in New York, helping firefighters and the 40,000 residents at the tip of Manhattan after 9/11. And we've gone on to work with refugees around the world. We work with soldiers that are coming and going to the battlefield, and mass disasters, mass shootings. So this methodology, which I'm going to share with you right now, we're going to do a little breath practice to lower that inner volume, that noise inside, and do a little bit of open focus meditation. This is what our subject is today. We're opening up the vision of us that we want to have a discussion about going into this summer pause with a new perspective and open, active holding of all that is happening in our world. So I invite you to unbusy your hands, placing your feet flat on the floor, and you can rest your hands on your knees. And I want to put on a 2-bell track, and some of you are very familiar with it. I just want to make sure everybody can hear this 2-bell track. Let me know in the chat if you can't. And we're going to do 5 breaths per minute, which has been studied in the lab in many, many areas around the world. That is the optimal breath for an average adult height. So I just want you to hear these 2 bells. There's a high tone. That is the high tone we're going to be breathing in together. And I invite you to lower your eyes if you feel comfortable, and I'll just guide you through this practice. That's the low tone. We're going to breathe out. Together, breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out through the nose, 3, 4. Breathing in gently as if you're sipping the air through a straw, and breathing out gently through the nose as you let it go. Breathing in, the air moves in gently and effortlessly, and breathing out, the air moves out. Now imagine you're on a beach and a wave is washing up you as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, the wave washes down. Breathing in, the wave is washing up. And breathing out, the wave is washing down. Now imagine the wave inside of your body as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, the wave washes down the balls of the feet. K1 point, letting go. Breathing in new energy into the body. Breathing out, letting go what no longer serves you through the balls of the feet. One more time, breathing in new energy into the body. And breathing out gently, balls of the feet. Now let's do some circuits. Focus on the top of your head, breathing in. And as you breathe out, focus on the base of your spine. Breathing in, top of the head, every little hair follicle. And breathing out, base of the spine, the whole pelvic basin. Breathing in, new energy into the spine. Breathing out, base of the spine. Feeling invigoration. One more time. Breathing in, top of the head. And breathing out, base of the spine. Let's work on our heart now. Breathing in, focus on the left palm, left arm up to your heart. Breathing out the right arm, the right palm, letting go. Breathing in, new energy into the heart field, up the right arm to the heart. Feel your heart expand as you breathe out, left arm, left palm. Breathing in, new energy up the left to the heart. Breathing out, right palm. Beautiful. One more time, breathing up to that heart field. Feel it expand. And breathing out, the left arm, left palm. Let's do something for our belly. Breathing in the belly button into the abdominal cavity. Breathing out the kidneys in the back, letting go. Breathing in new energy into the belly as it rises with the breath. Breathing out the kidneys in the back, letting go of fear. Breathing in new energy as the belly rises, all the abdominals are getting energy and it's letting go the kidneys in the back. Beautiful. One more time, breathing in. Breathing out the back. And let's just end with the top of the head back to the original. Breathing in, top of the head. And breathing out, base of the spine. Breathing in gently, top of the head. And breathing out, base of the spine. Now I want you to breathe whichever rhythm you'd want to. And I want you to just hear my voice and taking you into this beautiful exploration of your body. I want you to imagine feeling the space inside your nose. The feeling of that space as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Now, can you imagine the feeling of the space of each circumference of your eyes as they drop down into your head? Feeling the space they are occupying. Can you imagine the feeling of the space of your exterior ears? The top of the ear, the middle of the ear lobe, that little tragus that touches your cheek. Both ears, the exterior. Now, can you imagine the feeling of the space between your ears? The feeling of the middle ear, the inner ear, the brain tissue to the other inner ear, middle ear. Feeling all of that space. Can you imagine the feeling of the space from the tip of your chin to the back of your head? And all that space, the feeling of it. Feeling the whole head surrounded by space, penetrated by space, floating in space. Now, can you imagine the feeling of the space of each thumb? The base of the thumb knuckle, the thumbnail, the thumb print, the whole thumb and the space that they are occupying. Can you imagine the feeling of the space of all of the 4 fingers and the thumb at the same time and the space they're occupying? Each finger, forefinger, middle finger, ring finger, baby finger, and thumb, all at the same time. Can you imagine the feeling of the space between each finger at the same time, feeling the fingers? Your whole hands are surrounded by space, penetrated by space, floating in space. Feeling all the hand. Now imagine the feeling of the space of your big toes. The base of the toe that touches the ball of the foot, the knuckle of the toe nail, the big toes, feeling all of that space. Can you feel the other 4 toes at the same time that you're feeling the big toe? The second toe, the middle toe, the 4th toe, and the little baby toe. Feeling all of your toes. Imagine the feeling of the space of the whole foot, the heel, the instep, the ball of the foot. The whole feet are just surrounded by space, floating in space, penetrated by space. Now imagine the whole leg and the whole arm with the feet and the hands and all the space your whole body is taking up, all around you. Feeling the space as if all the skin, you can feel it contained, the whole body in that space. From the top of your head to the tip of your nose or toes. Feeling all the space the body is occupying. Now imagine the space around your body at the same time. And imagine yourself dissolving into that space, expanding into the room, all of the 4 walls of the room, expanding into the earth where your feet are, deeper down below the building you're in, into the core of the earth where the molten rock is, expanding up above the building into the treetops, above the earth where you're at, into that whole solar system we live in, past the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn, expanding out further and further past the middle of the Milky Way, past all of them to the thousands and billions of galaxies into the universe, into infinity. Hearing the sounds, perfect fifth, sound of the universe, drawing your awareness back. Feeling all the sounds and light. Coming back. Past the middle of the Milky Way. Into our solar system. Past the rings of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter. Seeing the blue marble, the earth at your feet as you descend down. Down into the area of the planet you live. Coming into the treetops. Above your building. And coming into the room. Feeling your body. Start wiggling your fingers and hands, stretching yourself like a cat waking up from the nap. Feeling it all stretch out. Wonderful. Welcome back. I'll look at the chat and see any impressions from that, and I'm more happy to answer any questions. But right now I want to introduce my colleague and good friend, Stefanie Atkinson Schwartz is a multidisciplinary artist. She's one of the most interesting perspective of artists I've ever met. And we can talk a little bit how we did. She's a photographer and a sensory exploration guide with a biomimic lens. This is our nature we're going to talk about. Stefanie's deep-rooted love for photography and art is derived from her passion for nature and a way of seeing sound, vibration, and light. She is an Emmy award-winning motion graphics artist for television and is an explorer of VR and AR, design science. She has exhibited in solo and group shows of renowned venues and has an ongoing body of work called Wonder. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Welcome, Stefanie. Come on. Hello.
Thank you, Anna. That was wonderful. Let me just get to the view. Okay, I don't have.
So we want to share an experience. Welcome, Stefanie. First of all, I just want you to explain to the audience how you really work with that lens that you see, and maybe talk about synesthesia a little bit, or what's behind you. We want to talk about an experience to all of you, share it. Last Thursday was the day out of time, and we were on the top of Mount Tam here in the Bay Area. We can talk about that leading out, but I love what's behind you, the diamond shape like a mountain. And for everybody, what's inside that's moving around Stefanie's head is a murmuration of birds that is exquisite photography-wise to capture. It has so many amazing shapes. And it's like it's having a poetry in nature. I mean, I just see a little seal that kissed its baby and stuff. So go, please, welcome, Stefanie.
Thank you, Dehanna. And that was beautiful experience flying us through our bodies and space. And I just wanted to say what's interesting, as she mentioned behind me, is a diamond shape. And I just want to go back to what Jim spoke of earlier about how in the astronomy and the stars right now, it's very squared. And like, basically, isn't that perspective? Isn't that orientation? And I believe that, you know, it's kind of like if we just do one turn, and this is a piece from a body of work called Wonder, as Dehanna said, and it's about how, you know, how we are, you know, mirroring the stars. And I feel like, you know, I feel like if we took the perspective, and this is very much like Da Vinci, right? He had his arms out and it was North Star, and we were aligned in a way. And we've sort of made ourselves built-in boxes, and how they fit together just doesn't fit together the way the rest of nature fits together. So this exploration really started after watching this music video called We Are All Connected. And it was a way that I learned science, like all in this music video, in a way that I hadn't before, because as you spoke of neurodiversity, I had some issues with the way that my eyes worked and hearing and seeing that weren't helpful for me in the way that education is set up. And so a lot of my learning was from studying nature and looking at nature, and that's that biomiminic lens you speak of. But this sort of question of like, are we, like, if we're all connected and we're made of everything the same, you know, everything is made of this stardust per se, and, you know, we're just put together with our atoms differently than every other species here, and we're in this, you know, as you put us through space, you know, we're in this sea of other things in this space. And that exploration really dove me into sharing the way that I see, and also showing how space is right here. So some of that would be like, you know, steam in a coffee cup would look like galaxies, you know, and I could share websites and things like that with you to show that. And I believe that, yeah, and I believe what we were just talking about with seeing and sensing and synesthesia, you know, basically, as I said, when I was young, my eyes weren't working smoothly. So they weren't tracking the same way as most people. They were kind of tracking, and I would, you know, if I had to focus hard, you know, very narrow focused, it would be very, very challenging for me. And, you know, I had more of this way that my eyes went out a little bit. And, you know, sort of like, that's very much like how we come into the world. We come in, and as babies, we don't have the ability to pull our eyes together. We're much more, you know, out here, and those muscles develop over time. And in that space, we all want to get back to that childlike space, that awe, that wonder, you know, that is out here more. It is the way that we hold our eyes, you know, it's not in the narrow focused world where we're hyper focused here, there, move fast, you know, and we're in a box, right? So this way of kind of expanding out has been something that like I did automatically. And there were ways in which I saw things other people didn't see, which I shared in a lot of my work. And I also missed a lot of things that people did pick up, because it would take me a long time to get from one place to another. Like my eyes were like for those of you who know photography, it was like a 35 1.4 on manual focus for dimension while I had 20/20 vision. So it's like a little hard for people to understand. I was also losing my hearing. So I mean, for me, I ended up using this biomimic lens to do an experiment later on. I had already gone through like some sensory integration, because when we aren't set up to navigate this world the way that it's set up, there's a lot of challenges. And so, in order to just to navigate the way society has set up the world or everything. But I had gone through, different kinds of eye therapy and spinning, a lot of like getting myself in time and space in a way that might not be understandable to most people. Although, there are lots of kids come in this way and there's a lot of different ways to assist them now, which wasn't when I was a kid. That wasn't the way. And so I had literally done an experiment not that long ago, maybe 5 years ago, where I mirrored the sound and it relaxed my nervous system. So I was listening live to sound as I was walking about my day, and I noticed different things were happening. But what really did happen too was that I was able to focus my eyes in this new way also. Maybe at the time it wasn't also, at the time it was just like that, where I was able to narrowly focus then with ease. And I literally had to go back and remember how I saw before out here, because this was the place that I felt more peaceful and more expansive and alive. And when I just was in that narrow focus and in the way the society has been set up, I was really in fear and anxious and really had a really hard time. And it wasn't until I realized that I couldn't really see the same way. So I was able to then bridge that by having the ability to see both ways. So now I can see the way that I saw before, see the way that others naturally see, and also recognize that most people aren't out here. They aren't spending time in a wider gaze. And, I just wanted to speak about learning from Leonard Shlain, he was a brain scientist and a brain surgeon, actually, and a writer. And he wrote The Alphabet versus the Goddess, and he wrote Art and Physics. And he has great lectures online. But what he taught me was that during the time of hunters and gatherers, we kind of took our own brains and split them apart in a way. So rather it be like male, female, the female are the gatherers, males are the hunters. It's really that our own brain then became like this too by the way that we focused. So those who were out here were the gatherers, and those who were more narrowly focused were hunters. And that's kind of like our education system tracking of reading, and everything's very close, and our goals and everything's very specific. But when we're out here, we feel better. And I think that just really reminds me of this mountain view, because when Dehanna was talking about the mountain, I realized like, oh, that is the wider view. That is the wider gaze. And if you look behind me, this could be the peak of a mountain, right? And, we don't always have the ability. Sometimes in these boxes, in offices, in spaces, in homes with four walls, and it's very linear. As a species, we've somehow been out of tune with the rest of nature. The rest of nature knows how to build for itself. The rest of nature, knows how to take care of itself. We could be under the stars each night and bathed in all that. We could be, living amongst everything else in a way where we are feeling safe, because that's super important. We could build so we feel safe, but we're kind of in these environments where the sound ricochets all around. Like we don't, we're not yet in tune and aligned with the way that if we are mirroring the stars, we're just pieces of stars ourselves, each one with a light that glows brighter than, with a heart that has, the ability to, the frequency and just, it's so expansive. But yet we haven't really done that for ourselves. We've kind of shut ourselves down more. We've dimmed the light rather than expanded the light. So, sort of those kind of things. So in this mountain, when we went to the mountain, we really had this moment of stepping out of time with the calendar. And, Dehanna and I and the others there, we had intention and we asked the mountain a question. I personally asked for wisdom from the mountain, will all of nature come behind us and join us now in this time that, that we can turn the ship around, right? Like, we have to have the hope that in these turbulent times that we can come to ease and we can be tuned to nature. And in tuned to nature, that, it really depends what nature we're tuning to. We really have to be mindful that we're tuning to the nature that brings us joy, that feels great for all, not just self-serving joy, but like, just to be in the alignment that we need to be in. And I think, so that was my question to the ancestors. And your question, if you want to speak to your experience, Mountain.
Yeah, so I had a really, thank you for that. That was just so right on about where we are as a standardized processing system on planet Earth, and that we are in the throes of really reinventing that process system and how we're relating to our natural inclinations, nature. And my experience on the mountain was I heard heal. And yeah, I work in the healing arts and I work in the, profession of helping others. But the mountain spoke to me and I didn't realize that something had happened on the mountain. The person who was leading us told us that the US government had blown off part of the top of the mountain. I don't know, in the 1940s. I know there was a base here in Hamilton Field, maybe, for World War II, but the mountain was hurting and it was like, just heal. That's what I felt. And I think everybody is at that level. It's so much anxiety and so much depression. And, the pandemic certainly pushed us into boxes, so to speak, literally our homes. We were forced into these homes to, sequester and not interact. And so I think right now it's just so potent to think of, changing that square into a diamond, and the mountain above and the earth below with these kind of vortex kind of, points. And then today we're really expanding the awareness of the periphery. We're going to do some exercises to leave with everyone over this summer pause so that you can really play a little bit with your eyes and the optical nerve and what's going on with the cones and the rods. All of this is so important for us to really expand our vision on Earth right now, because we're about to go 97 days into an election. And it's so important for us to have a lens that's expanded in nature and not in this standardized processing system that we've been so succumbed to. And our children's, early education development. My son was severe dyslexic. I have to pronounce that correct. And he just saw the world differently. I mean, I was his advocate for 18 years trying to get his education. And I realized, and maybe some other parents of dyslexic children realize, they don't see the two-dimension. They don't see the code the same way. That's why it's hard for them to decipher the code on the paper. They see a third-dimensional reality. That's how they process information. And just like you, Steph, the way that you processed your information with these different ways of seeing, the synesthesia, the hearing, I've really been so moved by people who are looking at their senses in a different way. I mean, I know that we've talked on Humanity Rising a lot about extrasensory perception, that we're evolving, the human race is evolving into that. Dean Radin's work, Joe Dispenza's work, all these different people that have been studying perception. And it's so important for us to just play with that. Have some fun with it. Just try it out, see what it's like. So I just want to be conscious of time. We've got about another 25 minutes to really experience some things and talk about. So go ahead, Steph. I want to really talk about.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say that, as you said, Nate, you asked for the healing, and, I think that like we are nature too. So a lot of times, like it seems so simple, but we forget that too. So as nature, like, we may have in our educating ourselves, forgot to remind, that we're all members and we're all connected. And I think that that's where when people are so traumatized in these times and things, what really happens is the connection to our hearts kind of can shut off or shut down or dim. And I know it for myself. I'm not speaking as other, I'm really speaking of like knowing the experience of being sort of thrown into the limited state of thinking and the expansive state of thinking, and just kind of knowing that like when I was in this state of being able to hold my eyes outward, which I can do now, and I'm going to share, and because it's what we all do, we've done before and we can do, but I can like stand somewhere like, and I was telling Dehanna this story about how I had gone through some brain what's it called when they're looking at
Brain scan?
brain scan, but when it's just doing the process of
EMDR?
biofeedback. I had done some biofeedback,
You're
and
breaking
the
up a
person
little
that I was
bit.
working with was very aware. And am I?
Yeah,
Can you
just
hear
a
me now?
little bit breaking up. Is everybody also hearing her kind of break up?
Well,
A bit.
okay. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Seems okay to me.
Okay. So the biofeedback, I just wanted to explain that I had been doing some biofeedback, and at the time, the person I was with was aware of how my brain was going, and I was very much like very right hemisphere, and the left wasn't working as well. And I was in a rush to get there because I was running late. So I stopped in the parking lot and I sort of did this thing that I do of just like taking in everything. And when I mean taking in everything, I just expand my eyes out, but I can feel if there's 5 birds flapping, I feel them all as if they're in my field. If there's water moving, I can sort of get into a state very quickly where I can feel everything at once. I can feel part of everything. And so I did that for a minute or two, and I went upstairs, and she said, "What'd you do? What happened? You're in theta." And I realized then that that's what that state is when I'm in that state. And that's a state we're in a lot as kids. And so that state, that wave is really like the way that really it's about the way we're holding our eyes. And that might be my synesthesia, one of them. And, I see sound and I could photograph it, but it's vibration and we all can. So like, I believe that synesthesia, yes, people taste color and see things, but I also believe it's the way the brain like kind of just navigates, manages things. And also we have beyond capacity. We have so much more capacity than we think when we're not like, this is one and this is another, and each sense is its own. They really do interconnect. So when we're outside, we're feeling the sound. We don't have the same experience when we have headphones. We're experiencing it all in the moment. We feel the wind. I feel the flaps of the bird fly by. Like, try it. Try to tune to it in that way, because it gives so much grace and joy and peace. Right? So we were speaking about this practice, and what I said is there's a great way in order to kind of like do some narrow and then some open and go back and forth. So I'm just going to go into this right now. So one of the things to do, okay, is to hold up your thumbs. Okay, so if you're at home, hold up your thumbs. If you're driving, don't do this, please. Yeah. But basically what I'd like you to do is hold up your thumbs, kind of just reach out, and you might want to bring them closer, because what I'm going to ask you to do is narrow your focus enough that instead of 2, you see 3. Okay, and you can spread it out and keep seeing how much you can hold that 3 or 4 can come from it if you spread out a little further. So I'm literally asking you to cross your eyes and then to bring them apart and see if you can bring in another 2 and hold them there, because sometimes they look so real if you can really get it in focus there, which really changed perception in a sense, and then we can pull them out even further. And I'm just going to step back a little bit here, because what I'm going to ask you to do is reach all the way out. Do it in the space I'm in right here. Reach all the way out. So your arms are out as far as they can go out. Okay. And this is best, like, we were talking about this as the summer pause. But to do this outside, feet on the earth, if you can be amongst trees, that's beautiful, fabulous. If you can't, like, just find somewhere, maybe there's a trees or plants or something, but have your gaze so wide that you could see the peripheral of your fingers moving. And if you can't see them, bring them in a little bit so you could see them. And like hold that gaze wide out there. Okay, and just breathe with that. And when we're in our homes, we don't see the same thing as if birds were flying and leaves and trees were moving all in different undulations and things like that to get the real physical experience of that all. Also, your heart. Okay, make sure you push your heart out a little bit, because this is where we engage and activate the heart, get the heart involved. That's the strongest electromagnetic field we have. So with your feet on the ground, you can root them in. You could root your feet in so that they, those roots go all the way through the planet to the other side. So they're part of every tree on the entire planet, because we're part of this planet. If we're looking at ourselves out in space, like Dehanna showed us, like we're earthlings. We're all part of one thing. We are all that. So just expand out with your physical body in that way and let your eyes just rest all the way out there.
And stretch the fingers out. Every electromagnetic energy is coming off of each finger. This is also something called a compassion mudra. So you are just, imagine yourself stretching your arms around the world with compassion for all that are suffering. And bring them into your heart field with that love and compassion for all of 100% of life.
And if your arms get tired also, you can put them down, but also close your eyes and still imagine them in the wildest focus. Sometimes I actually imagine my eyes behind my head. The way that we can still, like if we're outside, you would still see light happening on your eyes. I think that's a part of it as well, because when we can't see, so blind people who aren't able to see, they can still open that gaze, because it's actually affecting the brain and the rods and cones anyway, as we've learned from Leonard Swain. So I just wanted to just share that part. Go ahead, Dehanna.
No, I'm just that it's so powerful to use your hands and the electric and magnetic energy coming off. And this is one of the most powerful mudras. I've used it so much throughout my career with people. Stretching out, just hugging the earth with your compassion, stretching out the fingers, feeling each of the elements. The ether is the thumb, the air is the pointer, the fire is your middle finger, the water is your ring finger, and the baby finger is earth. All of those elements we're made of those in different combinations. And this is a way just to stretch out and express yourself through the heart intelligence, like Steph is talking about. That electromagnetic field has been measured to be sometimes 30 feet around us. It's so powerful. So we're recharging everybody on the call, even if you're watching on replay. This compassion, this connection to your full heart intelligence, and really allowing that imagery of you hugging, spreading your arms around the world, and really lifting up 100% of life, not just human life, all life. That's what we need more. And just bringing your arms gently back to slowly towards the hands together, and just placing them in a prayer posture. This is Anjali. And then pressing your thumbs into the thymus. It's almost anatomically perfect. When you bring your hands into Anjali, your thumbs hit right where the thymus is, right above the anatomical heart, and the sternum, right in the center of you. And it recharges. Remember, our thumbs are ether, it's space. So we're creating space in the thymus by kind of like a plug-in. We're plugging into the growth hormones, the T cells, our immune system's getting invigorated by this. And if you're standing, bringing your feet together and really feeling the roots underneath your feet going deep and pulling up the quadriceps and your legs into the trunk of your body, you will really feel like you are in a vertical axis. And then the top of your head, the crown of your head opens up for information from the field, that universal field. This is what you can do on your summer pause, just that whole practice of stretching the arms in the compassion mudra, and then bringing all of that energy back into your core and feeling your connection vertically to the universe. And sometimes you can even feel swaying, like the wind is swaying your body. Really feeling yourself connected to the earth and to that power source, your inner core energy, the thymus, the heart, the brain, the crown of our heads. There's so much wisdom that we can really be open to in this open, focused way. Taking a nice deep breath in and lowering your jaw, and make a sound. Ah. One more deep breath in. Opening your jaw, letting it go. Ah. And let's just stay here in a few seconds of stillness, feeling that energy going through our feet, through the body, up through the crown of the head. Beautiful. And relaxing your hands, come forward. Beautiful, Steph. Thank you. I love that. Feels so huggy. Feels so hugged. Let's see, what time do we have? Oh, we have plenty. So let's talk about the day out of time. I think this was one of the most fascinating ceremonies that I have been, I mean, first of all, we were on top of the mountain looking over this amazing vista of the bay. You could see the East Bay, the peninsula of San Francisco, and the clouds, you know, how they just hover around the city with a little bit of the Golden Gate Bridge. And then to the right side of us, we saw the Pacific Ocean and what's called the Sleeping Woman. It really looks like a woman, the topography. And it was just, the sun was setting on the woman's head almost. And everybody, there was groups of people all over the mountain at sunset. We weren't alone. It was just so invigorating to see that and pray with the mountain and know more about, you know, this sacred place. I know the Native, he had mentioned some Native American, you know, they revered this mountain. Why don't you tell them about Turtle Island?
We can do that. Well, just
okay. So they believe that Turtle Island, the north.
They
Go ahead, Steph.
Oh, the Turtle Island, the eyes are Mount Tam and Mount Diablo, and the tail is Florida. So basically, we were sort of on one of these, you know, on the eye, which I think is an interesting thing too, as Dehanna was talking about how man has like cut down part of that, you know, and I think there is a way that, you know, as humans, our perspectives has been a little cut off and cut down. So, you know, there's this way in which, you know, that's what we're speaking to in a way, right? Like to, you know, awaken the sleeping lady in a sense, awaken us, open our eyes. You know, if the eye got damaged, then we're here to heal the heart of it, right? The visioning and the wisdom and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just was so fascinated by the mouth. Also is the Bay, the San Francisco Bay. And lots of North American nations believed that this was sacred ground all around here. And I came from New York 7 or 6 years ago, and I could feel that Native American presence and the topography and just the life of the Awani, isn't it? Or the Native Bay nations. They just had such a pristine life, so much fluent, you know, food, fish, everything. The Bay Area is just filled with nature. I mean, not to mention the redwood trees that are extraordinarily, I think the sequoia trees are the oldest living organism on our planet. They go back like 12,000 years and they've all have this root system. Of course, as we know, their dialogue between each other is constant. They're totally in connectivity. So we are living in such an amazing planet with so much wisdom in the earth itself. This was really probably one of the most potent ceremonies that I've had with earth. And I've done a lot of, you know, sweat lodges and that kind of thing all over the continent. So this was really, really beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I want to go back. It's motivating.
Yeah, we'll do more of them. Definitely.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit more about this break or this pause. Why don't we talk about what I just did? Because this is something that I've learned from you about our words. Can you talk a little bit about how much violence is in our words that we use every day? And I just want the audience to know just what's behind that for you, because it has really gotten into my core that every time I speak now about describing anything, I'm so conscious of anything that is aggressive in my speech or violent in my speech. That's just so much a part of standardized communication.
Yeah, what Dehanna is speaking of right now is she used the word break rather than pause. And we were laughing about that because, words, especially as a photographer, I hear shoot all the time. I mean, it's like, do you going on a shoot? Are you shooting? We were doing school photography at one point, school shoots, and then all these kids, all the school shootings. So just the way that words, one, have like shoot, basketball shooting, right? They have a playfulness and they have another meaning. And so, the word mean, even, how is the word mean and meaning, do you know what I mean? The same thing. So there's so many words like that. And, just the way in which they are written differently, sound exactly the same, and are completely opposite. And I think that's where language and words, especially, I'm speaking about English, but so many have turned to the English language to learn. So, I believe that's also part of the way that if we were in our diamond understanding of who we are here and speaking in language that doesn't have the harshness that we have, because it's so ingrained, it's so part of the language, it just happens so naturally that we're speaking in this way. So it's really about tuning to that, tuning to it. And again, like I kind of play with it and correct people, but it's me too. It's like sort of like, I have to correct myself. And I just think it's sort of like we can course correct. I think it's really what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to course correct. If the cosmos and the astronomy is squaring us up, like the course correction is changing the shape of it. Even Metatron, they talk about Metatron's cube. But what if it isn't a cube? What if that's just perspective? And it's our language that we put on it. And what if it's diamonds? We're all diamonds. We're all star systems here. So, it's just sort of like, how can we each change, course correct in these ways? Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was funny how that came into the conversation.
But it's our subconscious mind holding, those words and the effect of them, and how it's so prolific throughout the way that we describe life. It's so aggressive. And to be in stillness and to find a way to expand and just be in space, this is when we really thrive as humans. Downloading the information that is really valuable. We need antidotes right now on the planet. That's what Humanity Rising's all about, finding antidotes and different ways of navigating our precarious and tipping point that we're in right now. We are really not in a grounded space yet. We don't know what's going to happen in the 97 days. It's been extraordinary changes just in 2 weeks. I don't even think it's been 10 days.
Yes, it's, I think, 96 days today. But it's sort of that, if we're aligned, right?
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
maybe
this is my passion to go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of people have this feeling like they came here for these times. They have this purpose in life to be here now, to do something important here now, to change the shift of time, like Heather coming on with the book today, speaking of the wise and wild and all that kind of stuff. Like if these are these times right now, like how we're in such a, like, we can like look at this time and say, hey, we're going to go backwards, we're going to go forwards. We were also talking about the magnets. Like if things are magnetized, we've gone our polars are the opposite. Our polars have been against each other. The minute kids start school, I have twins, so this is life experience, that when they were little, they, one walk, the other clapped, you know, they were together in it. They didn't realize they were entirely separate. Like that's how we kind of come in. And then school is like, hey, competition, you're against you and you're against this and we're against each other. And it's the polarity points. Like when they're magnetized, then the shape, like this shape, if you took this shape and you multiplied it, and I'm talking about that diamond shape, then it would fit together so beautifully and move together so beautifully, and it wouldn't collapse the way boxes do and wouldn't break apart. So I think that like we can look at this time as a time like, are we going to go backwards? I'm talking like, hey, ladies here, women, like, do we want to go backwards with our rights? Like, people of all kinds of people, right? Or forwards. And, you know, how that's going to go really is about us stepping up to say, like, enough's enough. Like, we need to honor, you know, every single human born came from a womb. Okay. The whole galaxy is a woman itself of creation. So we just have to honor everything. I'm not saying this to put anything down. I'm saying this to rise up. This, right? Humanity, let's rise up together now.
Yeah, right. I
And
think a perfect time to bring you back in, Jem. Humanity rising up. Any questions? Any perspective
Just
on?
enjoying the ride.
It is.
You know, you're so right, both of you, in suggesting that just simple mudras, simple hand-body coordination movements are sufficient to release extraordinary amounts of energy.
Yeah.
We don't really honor the totality and the healing potential of what we could do very, very naturally. And that's one of the things, Dehanna, that I've really appreciated about your contribution to Humanity Rising is the way you constantly remind us that we're the healers we're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, we do get into trouble. You know, I've got issues, everybody's got issues, you know, and we tend, when we have issues, to run off to some Western medicine technique or other, believing that they've got the answer. But we do. And your point, Stefanie, about just aligning with nature in an open-hearted, friendly way adds to the capacity that healing is all around us if we would just open ourselves to receive it. And that's a beautiful, beautiful, very inspiring truth that you're sharing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and definitely community, as Elizabeth in the chat has said. The answers are in community. A community is going to change our world.
Yeah, for absolutely, for sure. So a question that I would have, maybe starting with you, Stefanie, given the fact that we're in a heating world where record temperatures are assaulting people everywhere. You know, we're in the 13th month of world record heat, and it looks like there's nowhere to go but up. Forest fires in California, major flooding in Ethiopia, et cetera, et cetera. So what would be your comment, or what would be your admonition to people for accessing nature in a time of extreme heat and climate change? Does that change what you say? Is there a particular way we should be experiencing nature? How would you recommend we commune with nature during this time of duress?
First of all, I just want to thank you. And first of all, I just want to say, like, for those designers out there, like, how can we build things and create in ways that follow nature? Because there has been heat in certain places for a long time. How can we look to those places and how things survive? Like, you know, I know that in biomimicry, they study termite hills and things like that, cooling systems. I know your question is a little different, but and also that we've had humans already experience like extreme cold and extreme hot, and how do they survive? Like asking the people who've been there, who've done it, like Siberian people, like their experiences of the coldest of times, and people of the hottest of times what they're doing. So we assimilate the information so people get it all around who already have been in it a long time and already know that kind of stuff. I mean, I would say that like one could be with their window, go to a place that has beautiful open windows, or so to see out. I mean, it would be great if we could be in it, but I understand, like, or early in the morning or in the evening, in the times when it is cooler, like, if it's cool only in the morning, get out early in the morning, or at night with somebody, that kind of thing. But I think that having plants and trees in the home help as well. But I think that I would just say, really, like, whatever time you can step out and be with it, to do so.
Yeah. I was asking the question because Miami City took an unprecedented step to appoint a heat officer. And so people's experience of nature now is taking a very particular shape in many parts of the world. So anyway, that was just, I thought maybe you'd have some comments, but I think you're right. Going to people who live in extreme heat most of the time would be a good place to begin, particularly indigenous people, because they figured it out. A lot of ancient societies had remarkable cooling systems and all kinds of ways using nature to cool nature and thereby to cool themselves. So I just thought you might have a comment on that.
Right, I think it is that, though. Go to those folks and get them on here and have them talk about how they've done it all along, because sometimes things become so second nature.
Yeah.
But sharing that information will open ideas for people they have never thought of because they don't have those experiences.
Yeah. And then for you, Dehanna, I'm always intrigued. You were the one that really brought my attention to coherent breathing and the James Nestor book, Breath. So I'm indebted to you for that because it really changed my life. I do coherent breathing every single day. And in a very disciplined way. And I'm finding that its effect on my overall disposition is been remarkably salvific.
Oh, thank you. Yay. I mean, that's the cool thing about it. You can do it anywhere and nobody knows you're doing it.
Yeah, I do it every morning and evening when I go to the office and walk back. Whenever I'm walking somewhere, I'm just doing the coherent breathing.
When you're actually like challenged by something, I'll tell a quick story about my mentor. He was at a stoplight late at night, almost getting home, and he saw a drunk driver coming behind him that was going to slam the car. And he prepared himself for it. And of course, he got hit, but immediately started doing coherent breathing to just slow down any of that anxiety that was about to happen. He had a microsecond to make a decision. And it really gets in your nervous system where it starts rising up when you need it.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you as we bring this to a close and adjourn to the after chat, that coherence breathing, everyone, I think is foundational for a chaotic world. That coherence is the best antidote.
Right.
Chaos.
Yeah. And also it's designed for masses because it was designed by a psychopharmacologist and a psychiatrist that's written a slew of books on natural medicine for mental health. It's designed not to trigger anything or, so it's for large groups that they go into countries in Africa that only have one psychiatrist for 1 million or 2 million people. So they have to have a method for people to resolve some of that naturally with their breath, that anxiety, low-grade depression, everything that's PTSD that they're struggling with. So that's the beauty of it.
So Stefanie, why don't you give us a closing bit of wisdom in the spirit of wild, willing, and wise. And then Dehanna, why don't you close us out?
I think that's Heather though, with the wild willing.
Yeah, really,
Yeah, yeah.
Heather, where are you?
But in that spirit of wild, willing, and wise, what would be both of your closing comments?
I think that's right on. Like, the wildness of the being wild and in our hearts, willing to do what we need to do here in order to assist however we can assist this course correction, and wise in doing so. So I just think, it's sort of being as attuned as we can as the nature that we are to the rest that's already in tune, and joy is in the wildness. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stefanie. Deanna, any closing comments?
Yeah, just honoring this community, honoring what we show up for every morning, and you especially, Jim, our fearless leader, all that you've done just in the last year has been extraordinary in DC with Danny and Shannon. I want to acknowledge you and Stan, all the work that you do in the after chat and the extraordinary amount of work Gaylord does and the staff. We really appreciate you. It's just such an honor to close up kind of the end of our season and look forward to September. What's going to happen in these 30 days? Keep an open focus, everyone. Open up your space. Try to hold, integrity in your core when everything is winding around us in a very tumultuous way. And my mind is saying, pray, just pray, stay centered in what's sacred to you. What is sacred to you will always show you the way. And living in integrity, living in, purpose and a community and offerings, help to others that are suffering. Offer them your assistance. That's my kindness is my big thing. We all need more kindness in the world.
That's a profound notion, Deanna, that whatever you hold as sacred will guide you and will point the way forward. That's very important reminder that it's the sacred that helps us navigate the secular.
Yeah.
And it's the holy that allows us to cope with the chaos of the mundane. And, Stefanie, you're absolutely correct that nature is the sacred all around us.
Yeah.
And our bodies are the sacred for us. And so thank you for that, both of you. This is a beautiful way to close out our session. This will be our final session, everyone, till September 4th. We're already hard at work for a very wonderful fall program that will start off with a bang on the UAP disclosure and what's happening in the throes of what will then be the election. We'll be celebrating Peace Week in September. We'll be doing all kinds of explorations of the spirit and the world and community when we come back together. And in the meantime, I just want to say to everyone that I hold our community, Humanity Rising community, as something sacred for me. Mm. I really want everybody to know that, and I'll hold you in our heart collectively here at Ubiquity University in the New Paradigm Institute office, and wish you all well. Enjoy August. Keep yourself open, as Deanna says. Spend as much time as you can in nature, and we'll see you on the other side of Labor Day. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. You can join Stefanie and Deanna in the after chat.